Kaitlin, welcome to the cave.
What's up? Hello.
I've been looking forward to this chat for a few days now because the viewers and listeners are going to tune in. They can hear you as Alex on, would you say Spotify's #1 podcast right now? Batman Unburied?
Which is crazy. Yep.
Crazy, right?
Technically the #1 podcast. Pretty nuts.
Who would have thought of like a podcast, like just a voiceover podcast about Batman Unburied, and it hits #1 that fast?
I honestly, I feel like I should have had more of an idea of this, but I really had no expectations at all because it's a podcast, because it's a new space, but it's Batman. So I feel like I was expecting it to do well, but I didn't know it would be like the #1 podcast, and that, I'd have friends messaging me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're in this. And yeah, just the reactions have been amazing. So it's been really, really cool.
Now, before we jump more into the voiceover, I want to know, like, what made you get into the industry of like the entertainment industry, acting, and mostly voiceover?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in LA, so I feel like I've just been around it my whole life, literally since I was 3 in acting classes. And I feel like as you grow up, there's a lot that you shed, right? Like hobbies, your parents put you in soccer or whatever. I mean, I was never a sports girl, but acting was like always the thing that I wanted to do. And even in college, I actually studied directing. Through that, and that's another big passion of mine. But even doing that, I was like, okay, like after I graduate, I'm going full force acting, and I want to really like go for it because it makes me so happy, and I love it so much. I really couldn't imagine doing something else. Yeah. And then as far as voiceover goes, it kind of was something that I fell into a little bit in a great way. Like I self-submitted, which is really cool as an actor. Having it feels like there's not much control for you a lot of the time, but it's really awesome when you do have those wins and you see the work that you're putting in and you're getting something back. So yeah, I literally self-submitted and got into the voiceover industry, and it's been really cool.
Yeah. I've had other guests where they've come on and they've done both, and they love it. It's like, like I'm gonna have a 6-month period where I'm not on TV or movie or film, and like I can just knock out some voiceover work and still work and keep busy until the next big project comes up.
Exactly. And it's so nice because it's very relaxed. You do all the work, you prep it, but you go in, you can wear sweatpants.
Right.
It's not, you have to do the same scene a million times from different angles. It's pretty smooth, and it's a really fun thing to do. Yeah.
Who did you look up into the entertainment industry? They kind of like not model yourself after, but like study their work and everything.
I would say there's a lot of different people, but someone that I really, really, really respect is Reese Witherspoon. I mean, I always loved rom-coms, and Legally Blonde was like one of my favorite movies and still is. And I just think it's so amazing how she has her company, Hello Sunshine, and how she's making her own shows and kind of took her acting career and then expanded it, and she's still acting and thriving that way, but doing so much in the industry. So that would be someone that I really, really look up to as far as, I have multiple passions within the industry. I would love, as I advance in my career, to really be able to do it all,
So what's your the bucket list? A rom-com?
I love rom-com. Yeah. Rom-com and fantasy, I would say those are my 2 favorite things. So Batman, I mean, fantasy, thriller, that kind of genre-ish where you suspend reality for a second. I love that. Tim Burton is like my favorite director ever because there's kind of like that twisted but also fantastical element. So something on that order, and rom-coms, feel good movies. Yeah.
There you go. So Batman Unburied, how did you get on this project? How did this happen?
So this one came from a self-submission I did. I did a passion project with the director of Batman Unburied, Alex Kemp. And I was lucky enough to have that project with them before maybe a year ago, and we just really hit it off doing that. And that was a different audio drama. And Toby, who's one of the producers too, they sent me the audition for Alex and a different character as well on Batman Unburied. And I didn't hear back for a little bit, and then they just told me, they were like, yeah, you booked it. So can you come in? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
How do you audition for like a show like this?
So you get sides just like you would any other show,
Yeah.
but you literally just record the audio and then you upload it. Same as you would a self tape.
Okay.
But in this case, there's no picture. So you
Wow.
can use a mic. Honestly, I think I did my audition just on my voice memos on my phone.
Okay.
And you just want to have like a quiet space as much as you can control and, you know, be able to hear all the different nuances in your voice as much as you can.
So for the listeners, the viewers that if they haven't listened to the podcast, how do you describe what the story is behind Batman? Because Batman doesn't really exist in this world. Well, he does, but he's lost his memory.
It's complicated, right? It's
Yeah,
like
right.
complicated. How do I describe the story? That was a question, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so the story of this is basically without saying too much, it's a psychological thriller. So it's kind of dark and really in the mind, but it follows Bruce Wayne, and there's a certain villain, the Harvester, that they're trying to find. And basically, Bruce in this, by his father's wishes, has to go to counseling for his mental health. And there's a lot of things that happen, a lot of twists and turns. And essentially, yeah, you're following through his mind as Batman.
So yeah, it's funny because like I listened to a couple of episodes last night, and it's like cool, like it's kind of like you're listening to a movie. And you get to picture, you can picture the way how you think these characters look.
Yes, that's what I always say when I had no idea what to expect, but you can literally close your eyes and you feel like you're watching a movie. That's it. Yeah.
How do you think Alex looks like? What do you picture her as?
What do I picture Alex as? I kind of picture her as myself, which I don't know if that's bad or good or whatever, but I feel like, you know, it's the same. Doing audio drama really is the same as if you were shooting a film or shooting a TV show, just minus the camera. So I don't picture her as someone that's not me. I feel like visually I imagine myself doing it because it's just the same thing. But emotionally, we're very different people, I would say. Obviously there's similarities between everyone, but I think she's definitely had a different life than I have, and she reacts to situations in a certain way that maybe I wouldn't. But for the most part, I would say I just, you know, imagined being in the scenario with Poison Ivy and like listening and just being there.
Were you given a description of Alex?
Yeah, a little bit.
What was the description?
I don't know if I can remember exactly what the description was, but I don't know. This was a long time ago, honestly, because when they gave me the sides, I want to say they did give me a description. But it was probably something along the lines of, you know, college student involved in botany and plants and smart. I honestly really don't remember exactly what it was, but I think mostly I kind of created her character from myself. Awesome. Yeah.
So I was doing some research on Batman Unburied also. Did you record all your voice at home via Zoom?
No.
I thought that's what I read somewhere, so I wanted to confirm that.
Okay. So what it was is I was in the studio, but when I was doing my scenes, I was Zooming with Emmy Riverland, who plays Poison Ivy. So she was in Canada at the time filming. I think she was filming Umbrella Academy. And so we were doing it together, but in separate studios, which was really interesting to do. And then we had producers on and writers on Zoom as well. So it was like basically being in a room full of people, but with like two of us actually there. And Toby and Alex were actually in the studio with me, but yeah.
Now, does everybody record their lines like in separate and they all put it together, or is it like pretty much like a kind of like a big rehearsal?
I think it was different for everyone a little bit. I think everyone went into a studio to record it. No one did it on their own. But I think that Emmy and my scenes were some of the few scenes that we were actually doing it with each other instead of with a reader. And I think it all just depends on schedules and everything too, because a lot of this cast is working all the time and they're killing it, and they're so experienced as well. So I think it was just coordinating a lot of different people, but I was fortunate enough to actually get to read the lines with Emmy and get to go back and forth that way.
What do you think was like the biggest challenge working on this project?
Biggest challenge, I would say, I feel like there are a few challenges, definitely, but I think the biggest challenge was just staying within the world of Batman, and supporting Poison Ivy's character, but meanwhile, like creating my own, I guess. So I think that's a challenge just as far as figuring out like the tone. Obviously, Batman's huge. People love DC, and
Right.
it's such an amazing world and universe. So it's scary when you're doing something like this because you don't want to disappoint anyone. And I think my character is really there to like let Poison Ivy shine. So kind of finding that spot of letting her character really come through, but with also creating someone that's real and three-dimensional that you don't see visually.
Right. So now that you're part of the DC world now, how does that make you feel?
Makes me feel really excited. I mean, it's super weird and super cool. And I feel like, it doesn't feel, I don't know. It feels like the same as before, I guess, but at the same time, it's just really awesome because people are so excited about this project, and being a part of something that a community is already invested in, I think is like something I never really imagined for myself. And I think it's been just really cool seeing people's responses, like being very open-minded to a different type of creativity and art, podcast piece versus TV and film, because I feel like, you know, we're so used to TV and film and that's what we kind of gravitate towards. So people that are lovers and fans of DC, I feel like having them be excited about something that really is very different is super cool.
Has there been talks about a season 2 yet?
You know, not that I know of, but I couldn't imagine there not being one.
Right.
You know, because it's doing so well and it kind of ends on a bit of a cliffhanger.
Right.
So I'm hoping, and I feel like there must be a season 2.
Yeah. Now, would you ever do like a DC like animation?
Oh, I would love that. I would love that so much. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to get more into animation as well. I think, you know, I think it'd be cool to do different kind of voices and everything, because in this, for example, my voice is kind of my voice, and I was just acting, you know, but I think it'd be really fun to do something with maybe a little bit more character as far as, like different parts of your voice, and maybe making things a bit outside of what you would do on TV.
That's awesome. Now, what's next for you, Kaitlin? Any other projects you're allowed to tell us about?
Yeah, I have another audio drama in Tribeca right now. So it was also with the same studio that I did Batman Unburied with. And that one is very different from Batman Unburied. It's it doesn't feel like a movie when you're listening to it. So if you close your eyes, it feels very very real, I guess, which is a good way to explain it. Not that Batman Unburied doesn't, but you feel the fantasy and you're kind of taken on a ride with it. I'd say that this audio drama feels a little bit more stark and like you're listening in on something that you maybe shouldn't be listening in on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a completely different vibe.
Now, lastly, now how can the listeners and the viewers find you on social media?
Oh yeah, so my Instagram is at Kaitlin Q Moore. I spell my name with a K and then no Y's. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all my social media, Kaitlin Q Moore. So yeah, find me, follow me, and I would love to connect, you know.
And hopefully we'll hear about a season 2.
I would love that. I would super love that.
All right, Kaitlin, thank you for giving me a few minutes today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on and
Thank you.
asking all these awesome questions and
No
listening
problem.
to the podcast. I think it's
No
really cool.
problem.
Again, hearing people's questions.